Good afternoon, everyone. Calling this house to order. We're going to start the Novice Grand Final of NUDC 2022 very soon. But before that, we would like to introduce our wonderful panel of judges. Um, Firstly, we have Astri Agustina from UGM, champion of Diponegoro Open 2022 and cap for Founders Trophy 2021. The next judge would be Azalia Anindi from UNPAD, cap of IFA 2022, IDN Praka DME 2022, and HSDC 2021. Top 10 Best Speaker of Founders Trophy 2021, ALSA UI 2022, Smash 2021, Argumentum Open 2021, JOFAT 2022, 2020, and IAO 2020. And semi-finalists of NUDC 2019 and NUDC 2020. The next judge, we have Fahri Al-Mufni from ITB, Roderick Sibarani Trophy awardee on NUDC 2020, champion of UADC 2020 YAFAL, JOFAT 2020, grand finalist of IFA 2022, top 10 best speaker of Austral's InterVarsity Debate Championship 2020 YAFAL, and UDC 2020, JOFAT 2020, JOFAT 2021, and IFAT 2022. The next judge, we have Gracia P. Utami from Sadar, champion of CIDC 2016, grand finalist / runner-up of SMATCO 2020, Depot Open 2018, CIDC 2018, semi-finalist of English Parade 2020, GDF Open 2020, top 10 best speaker of JOFAT 2018, CIDC 2018, Depot Open 2018, EP 2020, Argumentum Asian 2020, CAP of ICOM 2018, JDF Open 2019, KDME LLDT 5 2019, invited judge of NUDC 2019-2022, JOFAT 2020, NOFET 2021, IFET 2021, IFET 2022, UADC 2020, UIDO 2021, Argumentum Australs 2021. Ika Dek Dwi Arya from Telkom, grand finalist of English Parade 2022, pre-grand finalist and fifth best speaker of Telkom Touches 2022, pre-semi-finalist of Unite 2022, quarter-finalist of UCDC 2022, pre-quarter finalist of ALSA UI 2022, breaking edge of Argumentum Intervarsity 2022, Depot Open 2022, NDO 2022. Next, we have Jane Rafavalin from ITB, cap for NUDC 2021, NUDC 2019, NUDC 2015, NSDC 2020, NSDC 2018, Argumentum Schools 2022, NUDC Cooperatives 3 2018, Atma Open 2019, Young Thinkers Trophy 2018, 2019, Depot Open 2017, IFA 2016, NUDC Cooperatives 2016, ALSA UI 2015, and JOFAT 2014. Champion of Kemenko Fiscal Debate 2018, IFA 2015, and ALSA UI ICOM 2013, and as well as the best speaker of Atma Open 2018 and ALSA ICOM UI 2013. Next, we have Muhammad Batara Mulya from BINUS, an Open Octo finalist and 8th EFL best speaker of Docs Bridge Pre-WDC 2022, ESL finalist of Johns Hopkins University Open 2022, overall best speaker of IFA 2022 and ALSA UI 2022, finals best speaker, overall second best speaker, and runner-up of Argumentum Intervarsity 2022, cap of Depot Open 2022, ADC UNRAM 2022, and Touches 2022. And as well as the grand final judge of LGBA 2022, 4 times IFAT / NOVAT, and 20 plus national finals. Next, we have Muhammad Zufar Farhan Zuhdi from UGM, a 3 times classic champion on IFA 2019, IFA 2022, ALSA UI 2022, 3-time classic best speaker on JOFAT 2020, NOVAT 2021, and IFA 2021. 3 times Asian top 10 EFL Best Speaker on ABB 2020, Australs 2020, UADC 2021, 3 times major international champion on ESL Sport IB 2021, EFL ABB 2020, and EFL Australs 2020. And pembicara terbaik of KDMI tingkat nasional 2019. Next, we have Mutiara Noverita from Undip, an open quarter finalist of AIUM Open 2020, open grand finalist of Dipo Open 2020, and UDC 2021, NOVET 2021, ACDC UGM 2020, HBP 2020, and ICOM 2019, open champion and top 5 best speaker of AUI 2022, Argumentum Open 2021, USU Open 2021, Kalimantan Open 2020, cap of Dipo Open 2022, IFET 2022, Pajajaran Open 21, English Parade 2022, Newbies 2021, Idea Pulse 2021, PFC Debate Unpad 2021, UCDC Ciputra 2022, and etc., and as well as the Best Institutional Judge of NOVAT 2020. Next, we have Syagung Gunawan from UGM, cap of NUDC 2019 and JOVET 2019, champion of IFET 2019 and also UI 2017, grand finalist of IFET 2018, JOVET 2018, IO 2018, and ABPFL 2017, ESL quarter finalist of WDC 2019 and ABP 2018 open break. And last, definitely not the least, our chair Christopher Chia from Sadar, champion of Pajajaran Open 2020, IDO 2021, second runner-up of EIA Unila Open 2020, Safe DC 20, overall best speaker of English Parade 2020, top 10 best speaker of Unila Open 2020, Pajajaran Open 2020, Safe DC 2021, Dipo Open 2021, and IDO 2021. Overall best judge of JOVET 2020, USU Open 2021, NOVET 2021, Argumentum Open 2021, and NUDC 2021. And as well as the cap for Smash 2021, Pajajaran Open 2021, IFET 2022, and AUI 2020. So that's all our wonderful panel of judges. Giving the floor to Chia to open the debate.
All right, check, just to confirm, am I visible and also audible?
Yeah,
Yes, you are, Chi.
Yes, you
All right, okay, so a quick roll call for everyone. Just to make sure everyone is here. Is Mulawarman here as the opening government?
Yep, Mulawarman's here.
All right, okay, thank you. So for Mulawarman, who will speak first? Yeah,
Andre,
please.
will speak.
Okay, please send it in the chat box. All right. Next, Amikom, opening opposition.
Yes, we are here, Kak.
All right. Okay, please send your speaking order in the chat box. Next, closing government, Sampoerna, are you here and complete?
We're here, but my teammate is not here yet. So he has a problem, but he'll be joining in a second.
All right. Okay, so please notify us if your teammate is already here. Okay, next, IPB, closing up, are you here and complete?
Yes, we're here and complete.
All right. Okay. All right. Okay. So while waiting for one speaker from the closing government, let's just mention the housekeeping rules for this Novice Grand Final. So first of all, for everyone, please always check your sound just to make sure that you are audible in all ends. That's the first thing. Second of all is, state your POI preference. If you forget to state that POI preference, that means for the opponents, please state the POI through the chat box because we're going by default. And also third of all is that if desired, please mention your gender pronoun preference. Okay. While waiting for one speaker, roll call for the judges. Mbak Astri, are you here? Okay, yeah. Indi, are you here?
I'm here, sorry.
All right, okay. Fahri, are you here?
Yeah.
All right, okay. Grace?
Grace here.
Okay, next, Arya?
I'm here.
Okay, Kak Jane?
Here.
Okay, Aya, Batara?
Here.
Okay, Zudi?
Here.
Okay, next, Muti?
Here.
Okay, last but not least, Yagung?
Here.
Okay, thank God. There are lots of panels. Okay, yeah. So for Sampoerna, CG, are you already here?
Yeah, Kak, complete.
Complete, yeah? All right. Okay, so cool. Now that everyone is already here. So yeah, hi everyone. Welcome to the Novice Grand Final of NUDC 2022. Yay! Congratulations everyone for making it this far. Yeah, regardless the result later on, yeah, we encourage all of you to do your best and have fun in this, Novice Grand Final. So yeah, my name is Chia. I'll be your chair judge for this round. Judging with me, we have wonderful list of panels starting from Mbak Astri, Indi, Fahri, Grace, Arya, Kak Jane, Batara, Zudi, Muti, and also Siagung. Under the motion, this house will only allow university admission on the basis of an externally designed and universally applied standardized test, as opposed to non-quantitative methods. Yeah, without further ado, I would like to call upon the Prime Minister to start the debate. For Andrian, the floor is yours. Yeah, here.
Thank you. Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible. What about the others? Is it audible? Audible. All right. Okay.
Very well. My POI preference is if you could unmute yourself, I will answer your request. If I didn't reply, that means I probably didn't hear it and you may try again. And before I begin, I'll set up my timer. Give me a moment. Very well. I will begin my speech in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen of the panels, what is the motion today at its very core? The very core of the motion is regarding university admissions and whether or not we should allow or use externally designed, universally applied tests compared to non-quantitative methods such as essays, competition, interviews, and etc. Now, before I move on to my core arguments, I would like to provide you some definitions. The key definitions, first of all, what would be the admission test that we are currently, as the government, proposing? These admission tests are objective-based tests that requires the knowledge of students or applicants to be applied, to be questioned, and to be graded in objective manners that requires materials that are based upon the materials and information and knowledge taught in school's lessons. What are non-quantitative methods? These are more subjective-based scoring that are dependent on the university and those who created it. And even if they are graded, for example, in essays and etc., these kind of things are still subjective based, and they are dependent on whoever are judging it instead of an objective computerized system such as in UTBK and SBMPTN. Now, we as the government proudly propose this motion should stand and we should use externally designed admission tests. Before I continue on, what are the current actors involved? First of all, the vulnerable actors that we must mention are poor students or those students that currently are living in daerah terbelakang, such as in Kaltara, in Papua, and etc., whose education aren't supported, such as in core regions, such as in Jawa, Sumatra, and etc. Second of all, we also recognize the existence, the presence of the university, the Ministry of Education, and the state itself as key actors, because the state itself mainly are the one that wants to achieve or receive best students to be put in universities across the nations so that they may grow and become the future seeds of which this nation depends and become the leader, the captain of industries, president, ministers, and etc. that may help the nation in the future and steer it to a better future and path. Now, the urgency regarding this motion is simple. This test will allow us to find those seeds, those students that are smart enough, sharp enough, creative enough to be the very best the nation have, so that they may grow and become better leaders, so that there is outside nepotism, corruption, and pollution, so that they can actually be trained, be taught, and even eventually, if they are promising enough, be sent to foreign nation with better top university to one day return to our nation and help develop this nation, for example, Indonesia, even further. Moving on, how we as the opening government propose this motion should pass and should run if it succeeds. Simple, we will provide the Ministry of Education, as the motion suggests, sufficient power, funding, resources, and control over all other universities in the status quo, providing them universal and fair system of which they could rate students' ability and see which one is the best through, once again, systems such as SBMPTN in the status quo or SAT, and from those, they can grade it and put them in a university of their desire to be placed on the appropriate channels to which they can grow and eventually become leaders, because they will learn in the best university that we can provide. However, we understand that the opposition may declare, how about more subjective-based subjects such as cultural? We as the government once again propose another system of which this may succeed, because once again, it will still be controlled by the Ministry of Education, and it will be universal. It will still be objective. Created a universal test based on those kind of cultural subjects, of which they can be graded upon on each according to their own ability, even though they are still more subtle, and such as, for example, the arts and fine words and etc. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, we are currently providing sufficient tasks which will be applied to any students willing to go to advanced education. Moving on, my arguments regarding the burden of proof and on why this kind of system would actually be more beneficial compared to the opposition proposal of non-quantitative methods. I will bring you three main arguments. First of all, it will prevent cheating from the rich and powerful or upper class people, because once again, we must recognize the existence of a key vulnerable actor, which are poor people who has the misfortune to grow in less developed regions. Ladies and gentlemen, they are still citizens of Indonesia and or other nations, and they have the rights of education. They could even be born with sufficient determination, will, and even sharpness of mind from birth, talents of which we can grow and cultivate. However, what happens if we do not use objective-based systems? What happens that nepotism from higher class may be used because those systems are more subjective. They will use this kind of interview or essay, and because once again those are subjective based on its judges, they will be reviewed by those judges, and because there exists nepotism as we know it in the status quo itself, they will permit this kind of nepotism to occur, and people with sufficient power or money to bribe can enter university even though their kids aren't actually sufficiently sharp enough in mind or even talented enough in ability to enter those university, which then reduces the seat for this kind of, for other kids that has actual talent and ability to actually become good leaders in the future from actually entering this university and be grown to that. Simply enough, once again, it will allow actual minds, even those in poorer regions, to enter because it is a fair, balanced ground of which they can enter. Now moving on, sure, the opposition may also propose that, well, those kids in misfortunate areas won't have sufficient education because they don't have access to education. This, however, brings back to our mechanization. We will be providing the Ministry of Education from the government. By increasing funding for MOE, we believe they can expand their ability in education and expanding, for example, library and quality of school education in those less developed regions, because they will need to increase they also need to increase their ability to create those tasks and funding, and the government would mandate them sufficiently to make sure this is balanced and this is equal and fair for everyone involved. And thus, we believe that the Ministry of Education would be able to create a further pemerataan or equality among those less developed regions in terms of education, which once again will allow those poorer kids or students to achieve education equal or sufficiently equal to those in richer regions, which then will be sufficient to propel them in SBMPTN, UTBK, and so forth. Thus, it will improve education for poorer people and poorer regions. And finally, even though if the opposition declares that non-quantitative measure would help people because they will be smart enough, once again, we must mention that it most likely will be used as a false pretense for bribery and etc. And thus, we as the government properly propose with our clear mechanization, with our clear goal, urgency, and arguments regarding this burden of proof. Thank you.
Okay, I thank the Prime Minister for the speech. So sorry for the wrong copy paste. Yeah. So yeah, the Prime Minister spent 7 minutes and 14 seconds. To continue the case, I call upon the leader of opposition for Sherfly. Yeah, the floor is yours. Here. So sorry for the name pronunciation. Oh, a quick reminder, everyone, POI is a vital part in BP debating, so we encourage the opponents to please over POI as well. Okay, so yeah. For LO, the floor is yours. Here.
Am I audible, Kak?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay. If you want to POI me, just unmute yourself. We're starting my speech in 3, 2, and 1. If government side afraid that in our side the task would be subjective, we say that there is no true. Why is that so? Because in our side we will provide several recruitment, like there will be like qualified supervisor, there will be like qualified ISAI and etc. So that's why what government side afraid is never exists in our side. But second, what they are trying to say in this debate is their actor is left behind, left behind a student. But we say that if your actor from left behind student, for example, like rural area and etc., we say that standardized tests about non-quantitative tests, this is not a best standard. Why is that so? Because we say that when you generalize non-quantitative standard means that like the rural area will adjust with what Ministry of Education standard and etc. But we say that second, we think that upper class can more accessible of the material in non-quantitative material. For example, they can easy to buy a book. They can easy to reach like book and etc. But second, we think that as student in rural area or middle lower class, we think that trying to non-qualitative standard is the best method, because in our side, for example, the E-side is not only limited to, for example, like you good in mathematics, so you can writing in mathematics essay. And second, you can also try to writing essay about several issues that you can more understand that you can more understand. So, ladies and gentlemen, why we say we cannot standardize tasks to non-quantitative only? Because we think that in status correct now, measure not only from IPA, measure not only for mathematics and etc., but also there are several major, for example, like IPS, for example, like Bahasa. So that's why we think a non-quantitative will be more hard to accessible for the kind of measure. That's why students from IPA more capable in non-quantitative, for example, like SBMPTN, like TKA, TPA, and etc. So that's why our goals in this debate is simple. We want to create fairness to the students from several backgrounds, and also we will focus on qualitative instead of non-quantitative. For example, like because we want to develop their critical thinking instead of trying to make the student memorize all materials. So our mechanism in this debate is first, we want providing a qualified supervisor, for example, like docent and there's docent, teacher, and etc. So there will be a test to the supervisor. So the subjective test will never exist in our side. But second, we will also create like like qualified essays. For example, like the students can writing essay and submit the essay in Sinta, for example, like Sinta 1, Sinta 2, Sinta 3, Sinta 4, and etc. So that's why the essay will be qualified and etc. And also will not limited the standard, also like the standard only for essay, but SI and also like qualified supervise alumni interview, but we also will access like like the students can show their portfolio to join the university, and also they can also show they several competition at the end of the day. So that's why in this debate I have two arguments that I want to explain. First of all, why as opening option we believe this is unfair, but second, why we think qualitative more better than non-quantitative tasks at the end of the day. First of all, why do you believe this is unfair? Because first of all, ladies and gentlemen, we believe that every student coming from different background, for example, like major bahasa, IPS, and etc. But before that, Oji.
Okay, thank you. You said that they will be qualified supervisors, but the thing is, they are still prone to subjectivity, and who exactly decides that they are qualified to do so? Thank you.
First of all, Oji, that what you must understand, that the supervisor will be subjective enough, because at the end of the day, we also will provide you, like supervisor supervision to this supervisor at the end of the day. So that's why we think that there will be a subjective at the end of the day. And also next, we believe that also every student have different capacity, right? Ladies and gentlemen, you cannot deny that every student have different capacity. For example, you good in mathematics, so that's why at the end of the day you can writing essay about mathematics. And also you good in art, you can starting to create a portfolio about art, for example, like drawing something and etc. and etc. We think this is more, this is more fairness at the end of the day, because we like providing a better standard, that is a qualitative standard, because every student can do this. But think that in government side there is no certain parameter about capacity of students, because you always get generalized to non-quantitative tasks at the end of the day. And next to my second argument, why we think that qualitative more better than non-quantitative tasks. First of all, we need to understand in status correct now, non-quantitative method leads student to memorize all material. Means they need to memorize, TPA, TKA, and etc. That's why if you see in status correct now, that Nadiem Makarim as Minister of Education erasing several tasks in SBMPTN, and also another task. So that's why, ladies and gentlemen, instead of knowing and instead of memorize all the material, we think it's more better if the students knowing and understand that the method really deeply, because we think that how to memorize instead of create critical thinking is really bad at the end of the day. Why you think critical thinking and qualitative is important? Because critical thinking lead to like create a better develop education at the end of the day. So we're very proud to oppose this motion.
Oh, okay, I thank the leader of opposition for that speech. Now to continue OG's case, I call upon Farid. The floor is yours. Here.
Okay, am I audible and visible?
Yep, audible and visible.
Okay, thank you, Kak, for the POI preference. Please put your POI through chat after I allow you, and then you may say your POI. Let me set up my timer first. Okay, I will be starting my speech in 3, 2, one. Panels, we need to remember that today we're talking about how exactly is the better mechanism to improve our education system, right? In which that we believe that it is much better if we actually resort to using using externally designed and universally applied methods of tests such as UTBK, SAT, etc., as opposed to tests that is created within that own university to accept their own students. Before moving on to my argumentations, I would like to continue a bit of framing, the framing that is mentioned by my prime minister before, is that we're not going to stick to just the status quo amount of tests, in which that we are going to able to create another set of tests, to implement another set of tests that if we actually need them to do so, right? So we're not going to simply stick to the status quo test. So even in the future, we're going to need another set of tests that tests another set of intelligence or ability of the student, then we are absolutely able to do that. Moving on to the opening opposition, in which their first point, they say that, oh, you know what, we're going to have qualified supervisors, for example. Qualified supervisors, in which they believe that they're going to judge the selection process objectively and as best as possible, and they expect that to actually be as good as quantitative method. Two things wrong with this. Firstly, qualified supervisors are still very prone to subjectivity, because at the end of the day, they are individuals. Therefore, they are vulnerable to bribes, for example, as opposed to some to a bigger body, for example, like Ministry of Education. It is much easier to bribe a single supervisor as opposed to bribe the entire Ministry of Education, right? Therefore, it is much more Ministry of Education, right? Therefore, they are much more subjective. They are much more prone to subjective. Secondly, they never explain to you how exactly qualified the supervisors are, who are providing them with the qualification in the first place. Is it the Ministry of Education? Is it their own university? There's never been an explanation of how qualified the supervisor could be. Second point is that they believe that, oh, you know what, you can do that because there are majors from IPS and Bahasa. Panels, of course, you already know is in UTBK, there are already several tests for IPS majors and Bahasa majors, right? There are, TKA, there are TPS, there are, for example, if you are a science major, you have kimia, biology, matematika. But then if you are an IPS major, you have sociology, geography, economy, etc., etc. So we believe that quantitative method caters to all majors, regardless of what the opening opposition said. Also, the third point is that they believe that qualitative is better, and that in which that they want to emphasize that method is better than memorization. Panels, we need to remember again that method is still going to be teach on our side, in which memorization is not going to be an exclusive thing. We have other methods of test that emphasize methods on our side of the house. Moving on to my argument. Firstly, why is it okay? Secondly, why is it beneficial? And thirdly, why the alternative, which is accepting internally and non-universal tasks, is bad. Firstly, why is it okay? It's already prevalent in status quo, right? This mechanism of test is already prevalent so much on status quo, and is actually working. It is one of the main things that is being considered in status quo currently when it comes to accepting majors, right? Most universities accept their students through UTBK, right? Even though they are accepting students from other methods, they are very minority. For example, they have much more amount of students that they accept from Ujian Mandiri, from SNMPTN, as opposed to they accept from UTBK. So it is actually in status quo, and it is working. Second point, another point to this is that they may say, oh, you know what, it is too rigid, it is too tight, and it doesn't test the full intelligence of students. Remember, again, we're talking about the Ministry of Education. So even if we believe that the test currently we have, it's not going to be very, very inclusive, the Ministry of Education can always redesign it and implement more standardized tests. Therefore, we're going to keep working on it to become much more inclusive, right? Second point is that, they keep worrying the inclusivity of all majors. Then again, for example, the art major, right? Judgment of portfolios using, we can also implement this with the third mechanism of judgment of portfolios using agreed upon criteria for art majors. So even if it's not going to be as objective or as quantitative as a math major, we're still going to have a criteria that is set upon by the Ministry of Education. Therefore, it's still going to be quantitative at the end of the day. Second argument, why is it exactly beneficial? First point is the fact that it limits cheating and backdoor acceptance. Most of the non-quantitative method in, for example, alumni interviews, essays, and etc., are conducted by individual universities, right? Therefore, the Ministry of Education and the state has very little control over it. So it is we're basically trusting on the individual universities and relying them to make as much as objective as possible. But then again, how can we fully trust them? Because the results of the test itself is going to benefit the university. Because therefore, we believe that it is much more objective and much more, how do I say this, transparent when we give it to the Ministry of Education when it comes to determining how to accept. Yes, I accept the POI from all.
Okay, why do you think non-quantitative method will always relevant to all measure at the end of the day?
Non-quantitative, okay, also thank you for the POI. Non-quantitative method oftentimes test about the basic capabilities of students, right? For example, the ability to count, the ability to use logic, etc., which is very prevalent in tests today. So therefore, it is going to be very inclusive. Second point is that it's going to create equal standardization and development for education. This equal standardization and development for education is going to be much more achievable in OG's world, because instead of opposition's world, because at the end of the day, Minister of Education is going to have much more control over it. So therefore, they have easier way to actually standardize and equalize all the quality of education, because the test to actually enter the university is going to come right straight from them. So they have a much more prevalent control over it. Final argument is the fact why the alternative which is accepting internally non-universal test is bad. One point is the fact oftentimes that it only tests a specific set of skill and disregarding other set of skills. For example, oh, you know what, you're good at drawing, but then, oh, just because you're good at drawing, you're going to be accepted at this university without actually thinking of any other skills that might be actually come in handy and in fact and perhaps even more important for the future on. So that is something that we do not want to happen on our side. Therefore, also to propose. Thank you.
All right, I thank the DPM for the speech. To close the opening half, I call upon the DLO to Rohmatul Mala. The floor is yours. Here. Okay,
My
check.
voice audible, Kak?
Oh yeah, can you check one more time?
Check. Is my voice audible, Kak? No? Is it clear?
Yep, it's audible and very clear. Yeah, so you may start your speech.
Okay, thank you, Kak. Okay, I will start my speech on 3, 2, and 1. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we know that university is the goals of university is about the bridging the skill and also the capabilities of the student. And of course, in the bridging of the capabilities and also skill of the student, we have the good election to have the more empirical result to their capabilities than only by the universal apply the universal test. So that's why firstly I want to rebut the opening government opinion first about that the supervisor of to arrange about this system is not clear, cannot be true. But because we propose it as the opposition, then we can arrange the system from he said that similar to the major. So good question. What is the good question? Also psychological question to know their capabilities, to know their mentality, and also their hidden capabilities they have to be improved in their university. Is it they have the capability, or maybe they have some hope to go the university? Secondly, about the suitable for all major, that opening government said that we are not suitable for all major, but we can arrange by the university alumni or maybe the lecturer explain what they will pass in the university or in that major. So to know their mentality and also etc. We can arrange it, not only the theory applied in SBMPTN also as an SNMPTN. So then it will give the result that more empirical result to their capabilities. So opening government also said that this cannot apply by all skill. We cannot receive our student just because only they have some skill and etc. But exactly, university goal is to bridging their capabilities to being expert and etc. So that's why we have to know what is their passionate capabilities, right? Then the universal test. So as my first speaker said, that we want to
hello. Hi. Mala. So sorry. I think you are accidentally muted earlier.
Oh, okay, Kak. Menit
Yeah.
keberapa?
In my time it's 1:45. What about Mbak Astri? Oh, 1:50. Oh, okay.
Ya, 1:50, Ci. Beda 5 second kita ngeklik stop.
Okay. So you can continue from that part.
Okay, Kak, I will continue my speech. So, first, that opening government state that we cannot accept or receive the student based only from their skill, but exactly university goal is to bridging their capabilities to be expert in the end of the day. So, of course, we cannot the hope but their hope the hope that they can give to the university in the next of the day. So let's my first speaker stated about we want to create fairness election and also large possibilities quota for all students without any restriction and specifically by universal test, because we want to oppose the quantitative universal test, because we can identify the problem right now in status quo that Indonesia have been applied SBMPTN or UTBK, which forming all student or maybe prospective college student by general election standard. Only student who qualified and have capability who have chance to pass the test. Moreover, if they have similar major in high school, they wouldn't have access to study. They don't have chance to get the university or some major that they dream or maybe they want, and also what they have in their capabilities. So why this is not bring effective, because bring effective solution to give all students fair chance and possibilities to enter within hard election system, which make them hopeless. So that's why this will be solution for our common problem right now. So okay, POI Oji.
Thank you. However, we must recognize that mostly students of IPS will continue to IPS grade and IPA will continue to IPA staff. This is why most likely this kind of trans things won't happen, and they will already be prepared and without the sufficient lessons to join UTBK. Thank you.
Okay, I will answer your question that no, in the universal test there is the test of basic of mathematics and etc. So of course the major which is chosen by the science student will also easily pass by the science student also. But their major from social science major student, they also can easily pass by the science the similar major science student, because of what they still on there are TPA, so base math and etc. which who have the capabilities is the science student. That's why it's also give the restricting or limited chance to wouldn't pass the IPS in their high school like that. So that's why we want to oppose this motion, because first to give fairness university admission massively in past our historical of Indonesia, we can qualify student by universal test because they have some experience or maybe similar background, like time for going school, same education system and stuff. But today we cannot assume they still have some internal factor to capable enough pass some universal election, because let me mention their different background. First, demographic area, urban city and rural area, not some access to get education. So second, different education system. There is a who pass the international class or private or state education, or maybe who pass the favorite school who get more large possibilities. So parenting treatment also condition like social and also economy. Universal test makes students who not have privilege must do harder chance with unpredictable result. Also, they don't have chance to enter their dream unit or maybe major. Even exist, it was very limit, and the majority student who pass still there who have the privilege. It is impossible to give the unforming test in their differences, in their background of differences. If opening opposition want to say government have give rural area quotas to counter, but it's still only 20% or maybe 30%, we still not equal to them, and also not give the equal equal possibilities to them. So other is about missing possibilities. In there are science student division which broadly similar to science major, but in Southum there are still their TPA which include basic mathematics and etc. which this objectively still can mastered by science majority student. So social student in the high school become hopeless because their major quota still taken by science student major. So thirdly, this universal test will be risky to give many cheating risk, because today people who have the question or grid content can sell the answer key massively on the online. They can easily do cheating, and during exam it is easily to everyone to memorize the answer. So I suppose this examination cannot generate the capable student in that major. So because even if they don't have capability, they can study before hardly to only pass the examination. So this also impact high school students not going to focus study in their school for all major, but they can humiliate their learning process because they only have perspective. The important, they only study the elected major for exam near time to the election. But if they will inform if the election is being more rational and serious in qualitative method, they will be more focused on high school learning process, because they must be prepared enough. They will focus, be active student, and prepare the mentality. See this admission system not only forming for the election result, but it's forming the best student improve their high school quality learning process. Next, I will give you the disadvantage, the advantages where it's better to apply plus. First, all students from different background have chance to focus on their passion major. Second, give more true result for the capable student. Third, everyone have large possibilities. So you see in the Finland, focus to qualitative. They more realistic on their study. They can get earlier building tactic to their major that they passionate, not wasting time to learn what they cannot to cater in their knowledge, in their capability, and will create more perspective student that they have capabilities enough to the major that they want to. That's why we want to oppose this motion. Thank you.
All right, I thank the Deputy Leader of Opposition for that speech. Now to open the closing hall. Okay. Yeah, I call upon Corina as the government member. The floor is yours. Here.
Am I audible?
Yep, audible and yeah, visible.
Wait a minute. POI preference is just unmute yourself. And I would like to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Before I'm starting my speech, several rebuttals given to the opening opposition team. 2 rebuttals that they say that you good at math, that you need to create essay about math. But this is actually invalid, because they say that you might be good at math, but you are really bad at doing tests. But this is can be so applied in their argument on how you might be good at physics, you might be good at chemistry, but you're really bad at creating essays, because it's a whole different story, it's a whole different background. So we say that this argument of them is actually invalid. Second point, on how they say that demographic area and different education system is actually will make essay better since it can reach lots of people. However, imagine if you are coming from a school that is not really good at teaching you, and ended up you're not really good at your education. What will happen if you're actually make an essay that makes you capable enough to be in a university that is really prestigious, that is really competitive, and all of the people there is really smart, but you're actually not that smart, but just because you're actually creating an essay in the first place, but you get accepted. How will you survive in those universities in the first place? So this is why we as the closing government believe that the quantitative method that one should be applied, because in this point that you can see the real quantitative, the real qualified of those students in the first place, because after all, those educations is needed to qualify someone that is really have the capability to be survived in those university, in those major in the first place. So I would like to expand on what is missing in the opening government, on what is the importance of transparency in the education that should be done by the government, and how tangible it is to be implemented in this real life. And also what is the intake and non-quantitative things look like in the first place. So we say that in the current status quo, university admission task includes but not limited to full personal statement, essay, and alumni interview. This look like when you're applying to a university, oftentimes in the school that is actually using essay, you're asked to do a certain task and also writing a personal statement that is needed. So there is no need for you to actually giving a lot of background about what you're really interested, what is your achievement. And also the essay usually includes them to not only just bragging about themselves, but not focusing on the goal of what would be student or what will be like the essay that you need in LPDP. So it is a whole different thing because you're only reading a personal statement that is not involved on what it is your capability. The opposition will say that this task will not be able to actually measure on how far these kids will be surviving in those university itself. However, it can be tackled by saying that this university is a place that will make you to see a whole new world, that you will make diverse people according to where they decided to be. So we think it is really okay the moment that they enter the university life, they're learning about it directly, and if they will learn about it in the hard way, that's fine, because you're becoming adult, and this is the similar situation might encounter in the failure. So it will be not extreme when you suddenly have no friend unless you not to. So we have two burdens that need to be solved. First one on how to create a solid measurable competency of the student itself, and then the second one to reach the interest of the state to provide an education that is accessible for everyone. Our two main goal is that the government will only apply externally designed and universally apply standardized as opposed to non-quantitative methods such as alumni interview and also those essays. And also the second, we will not allow any kind of non-quantitative method again in the university admission, and only doing this test to make sure that we actually get a more competent student in the university in those fields who's going to be the next people who lead the country. And that's why the government can fulfill the transparency, which is actually demanded by the public in the first place. My first principal argument is it is fairer for all layers of students. Why this is important? In non-quantitative method, it is not a method that is being done universally, thus this is not fair. For some students, such as the students who did not come from prestigious school in the first place. For example, when you're actually coming out from a student who lives at the east, for example, you will more likely to not get the information about perhaps the alumni interview or perhaps the essay. When you're doing an alumni interview, it means that your school needs to be known, your school needs to be prestigious in the first place because you're doing alumni interview after all. And then the second, for the students who did not get the same information or the same privilege to be done an essay in the first place. For example, when you're doing an essay, you're doing a personal statement that is bragging about you. For example, what do you do for charity? For example, what is your hobby that can be contributing, etc. So it is not valid. And also about how students that really wanted to apply to that school have the capability to pass the test, but didn't have the chance, since in the non-quantitative method, many people will get the chair first rather than people that is actually doing the test. When you're also doing an essay, it means that you didn't have a clear parameter on what essay that should be in and what should be not. It is different when you're actually doing quantitative method. For example, when you're doing SBMPTN, there is a multiple choice that will make you clear on what is your point, which one that you got wrong. This is really clear in those quantitative method rather than those non-quantitative methods. So the comparison with the opposition bans is that the opposition saying that if perhaps those tests can be manipulated, essay, it is also can be manipulated, because when you're doing essay, you get a lot of time, you can find lots of reference, or in the certain cases, you can even translate someone essay or someone personal statement and call it your own, because we can do that, because you can do that in the first place. And then the second, how essay does not really reflect the reality, because it doesn't really show the capability to the fullest. When you're giving an essay, it means that you're writing based on lots of reference that you already got, and etc. And also, if the students did not pace, and if they're saying that, how about if the student did not pass the quantitative method, etc., it is because they're different, because they're not capable in the first place. This is why it's needed. We want to really find people that is really capable to get into those major and those universities. And how about they say, if they really want to get those major, you can choose another university that you see that as a for you. So this will be giving interest of the government, because system will be more transparent where you're doing the essay in the first place, because you can see on what is the score, who is already in, rather than you're doing an essay that didn't have a clear parameter. And also, why it is practical to the individual level, because usually essays or interview, the prompt is very repetitive. What does it look like? For example, when you ask for your personal statement, you're asked to aspire your true self and potential in the essay. With that fact, many people have different background and information, but it's also true in the opposition side. But however, this is really bad, because this can be more harmful if you're actually applying just to the essay rather than quantitative method. So this is why we as the government team believe that we should implement the quantitative method rather than non-quantitative method. So we are proud to propose.
Right, I thank the government member for that speech. To open the CEO's case, I call upon Riyadh as the opposition member. For Riyadh, the floor is yours. Here.
Okay, hello. Sorry, but let me just set my timer first, okay? Before that, am I audible?
Yes, you're perfectly audible.
Okay. My POI preference is you could just put your POIs in chat box, and my pronouns are he and him. So, I'm gonna begin my speech in 3, 2, 1. The biggest mistake of OG in this debate is 3 things. Number 1, they told us a subjective SBMPTN is objective and any other than that is subjective. Well, our response to this are quite simple. Those interviewers are inexperienced, for example, alumni, whose their judgment would be based on their experience and their knowledge in their master fields. But number 2, they told us that universal test prevents inequality from the rich and the poor. This inequality exists on OG's side because of 2 things. Number 1, because UTBK is the only way for you to break to uni, the competition would be high, right? Meaning that everyone would do anything to make sure that their children could get into the uni. What's going to happen is those with money would most likely give their children the access to course, for example, that is not exclusive, that can't be experienced by those who have no money, for example. Thus, meaning that your point about inequality on our side also exists on your side of the house, which makes your argument doesn't stand. But number 3, their biggest mistake is that they told us that they would add capital to increase Papua's education quality, for example. Why this is less likely to be achieved? 2 reasons. Number 1, the incentive of government to increase Papua's education quality already existed, and it proven to be doesn't work. And number 2, large area of Indonesia itself creates so many places that needed to be repaired, which means that it's expensive. So OG's case is doesn't stand at the end of the day. But moving on to CG, they clearly told the same thing that OG told you in this debate, which is regarding to accessible and interview that didn't have clear parameters, which would also meaning that CG could be out of this debate as well. But I'm gonna rebut that in our case. But moving on to OO, what they're actually bringing this debate. Their biggest mistake is that they fail to identify what is the motions clearly are. 3 reasons. Number 1, they lacking of mechanisms. All right, they told you about qualified supervisors, but the lack of likelihood on why student and institution would apply interviews as opposed to UTBK is lacking on their side of the house. But number 2, their main ideas is that they want to develop critical thinking, but OO failed to identify which are the most vulnerable actors in this debate, which is student in a certain area with a bad educational quality. But number 3, they told you that cheating risks on the universal test are high. Well, if I was the OG, which OG already did bring in this debate, I would say that it is also possible on our side to do cheating, but which is not the case of CG, because what are actually our models in this debate? Number 1, the mechanisms. So what's gonna looks like in our side? 3 things. Number 1, government policies regarding Indonesian education. What is it likely to happen? For example, MBKM could be applied by Mr. Nadiem just like that. And then all education institutions should follow the new MBKM protocols, and it's cheaper to change a policy compared to trying to improve some infrastructures like OG's mechanism, for example. Number 2, there's going to be experienced interviewers on our side of the house and motivation letters, essays, interview, and so on and so forth. Number 3, on our side of the house, UTBK quotas would be reduced because other methods of tests are existing. My arguments will be consisted of 2 things. Number 1, why quantitative methods cannot be a determiner for university student candidates' capability. Number 1, inequality of education's quality that exists in almost everywhere around the world, especially in the developed countries such as Indonesia. Why this is happening? two things. A, Indonesia has a large demographic area, which makes the government harder to spread their capitals to cater those areas who are far away from Java. B, the characteristics of each and every areas in Indonesia, these are different. What am I talking about? For example, in Java, you are clearly easier for the government to spread their books, for example, to the schools, but the terrain in Kalimantan makes it harder for the government to distribute books to schools, for example. Meaning that even if there's a standards, not everyone can follow those standards, which is the main case of government bench and haven't been answered by either OG or CG, which makes them also out of this debate. But moving on to my second argument, why non-quantitative methods is inclusive? What is the matrix that only existed on essays or interviews or none other quantitative methods? Three things. Number one, motivations. Every people has their motivation to do something, right? And they could put that in their essays. Also, point of views. Everybody has a different point of views regarding some matters, right? They could also tell us that in interviews or in essays. And number three is ideas. Ideas are needed in today's world, right? There is so many problems that are quite, needing some kind of idea to solve that problem. So essays got those three things. That cannot be provided by universal-based tests, which is the benefit is exclusive on our side of the house. We decide if a candidate is worthy enough to be accepted to our uni through, but not limited to those three matrices. Then why are those necessary? Two reasons. Number one, even if their standards, learning qualities in Indonesia, for example, are not that equal. For example, Papua or other, like outside of Java. Essays give these actors a new matrix and an equal chance to be in the same educational privilege as those who are in Java. But number two, some people might not be aware of mathematical theory, for example, algebra and calculus. They don't understand algebra or calculus, but at least we provide them with the chance to speak their mind and share their opinion, which is important because of two reasons. A, people outside Java often felt left out. They often felt like the government doesn't care about them, which makes them felt unmotivated and underappreciated and leads to less incentive for them to learn. At least on our side of the house, they would felt at least appreciated and listened. Thus creates hopes which would make their learning motivation exist. And this is only exclusive on our side of the house because government bench and OO doesn't actually told you the current the urgency of this debate on status quo right now. But to my next point, B, we believe that every people has potentials, but not everyone has the chances to improve their potentials. We believe that those vulnerable actors from outside Java are smart and capable, meaning that we could make sure through interviews and essays, we could make sure that those people could fulfill their potentials, even if they're only, for example, could break into vocational or undergraduate program, for example, because now they don't have to always understand algebra, for example, in order to break to university, which is the case on government bench in this debate. So that's why, ladies and gentlemen, we as the CEO already provide to you why, number one, education quality in Indonesia are not equal, two, how to deal with them, and three, the clear mechanism on why our mechanism could apply and likely, and number three, the impacts, the pragmatical impacts that could be felt by these vulnerable actors, or also by the government itself. And that's why, ladies and gentlemen, we are so proud to oppose.
All right, I thank the opposition member for that speech. To continue, I call upon the government whip for Felix. The floor is yours. Here.
Hi, am I audible and visible?
Yes, audible and visible.
Okay, let me set my timer. By the way, POI through chat, but on Badger. Okay, starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panels, we think if opposition biggest concern is accessibility on how people may not afford course in Eastern Indonesia or how it will not reach to more people, for example, like the one who are poor, for example. We think it's still actually mutually exclusive because how they are comparing this will suddenly make all people in region in Indonesia will be have the same access to enter university, because we think the harm under their side can happen too, right? To be good at for example, to be good at UTBK, you also need money, for example, to afford the courses, right? And also it goes the same as well to the essay, right? You need people, you need money in order for people to read proof your essay. We don't think it is like a really good cases coming from opposition side of the house, right? But before that, let's talk about rebuttal towards closing opposition. They're talking about how inequality of education exists in the current university test situations, and how it is going to make and how of the inequality of education it should make the government should be responsible. We think government can still be responsible in other things besides implementing non-quantitative method. Besides, if we are so sure that education is unequal, how does those essay which made by them so sure can be competing with others from Java, for example, right? So we don't think it is not, we don't think on accessibility and on fairness, they are win in this debate, right? Let's compare OO in this debate with government side of the house, right? They are talking about essay is good because it is going to create a because it is going to show how qualified these people, and also it can encourage the students to create a qualified essay, for example. Like they're talking about how it is going to give them motivation, because at the end of the day, they could submit the essay into a scientific journal like Sinta, for example, right? But we think what they bring under their side, giving example of this, students can publish the journal on Sinta and etc. We think opening opposition cannot understand that this is a personal statement essay, right? Not a scientific journal essay. The process of you making it is very different, right? You need a lot of time, probably more than 3 months or like even a year. You have to search for participants, so on and so stuff, right? This is not like you are creating a self-statement essay, which is we think it is not going to be a better under opening opposition. Opening opposition also talk to you about how they're going to provide a supervision for people to create this essay, right? But they never explain to you how they're going to supervise this people. What is the parameter of good essay actually? What is the measurement? And what this supervisor will do? Because why you need a supervision to begin with, especially when they said that it will be provided by the university, right? Things that you need to also understand that each year and term, there are a lot of people, even 1,000, applying for university, right? How all these supervisors we suddenly can accommodate all these people needs. Comparatively, under our side of the house, Corina have mentioned to you that under our side, transparency actually exists because there's a parameter of you accomplishing the test by the result through the grades, right? There are the grades, there is a measurement, and the participant of the test also knows, oh, like on this type of question, for example, how much this type of question will be weighted, for example, right? And therefore, they may already have think or consider that, oh, I should do extra study to gain more grade, so the possibility me entering this university will be higher, right? And we say this is very effective and fair, right? But also let's talk about how on the level of fairness, right? Let's the key on the level of fairness. We think fairness will be better and exclusive under CG. Yes, OG have mentioned to you how transparency exists. It could make it more fair, but they never explain how this manifests in real life. Therefore, CG is the one who exclusively explain to you how this manifests in real life, right? Corinas brought this to you, that how essay is containing many elements, right? There are sometimes like a prompt is very repetitive, like how does this look like? It look like when you are asked to explain your personal statement, you are asked to aspire your true self and the full potential in the essay, right? But with the fact that all people have different background and information to this, sometimes this prompt is not digested well, right? How that is look like? The moment you want to enter your dream university, you will do everything that you can, and of course you want to show the selling point of you, right? Especially when you're very achievable, have a lot of achievement that you prove that you're suitable, that you can thrive in a specific major you apply. However, this sentence might be harmful and it's avoid the test participant to really voice out their aspiration and hinder who they really are, right? How this look like? This looks like when you're supposed to see your real you, because the admission want to know how do you sell yourself. However, instead of showing your true self and your true your true ambitions, they only choose to listing the achievement and overselling themselves to the point that that is not better anymore, right? We don't say listing achievement is not good. However, this hinder the true self because it is done more like because they want to really look good, but forgetting to put their whole heart and to their own personal essay, right? Therefore, we think this reason is very limiting their potential, right? And also again on transparency, right? Because of that type of element, there's no measurement, right? Because the essay is not like the type of academic essay where it can be weighed. For example, when you write academic essay, you can weight the grade based on, for example, it's not only content assertion, but also like elaboration or like the correctness of citation format, for example, right? Comparatively, it is not applied in the essay, right? Because in the personal essay for you to enter university, right? Because realize, as I mentioned earlier, that the prompt is very repetitive. Like, what is the parameter, right? Also, Karina have mentioned to you that it takes longer to assess. Considering a lot of essay they are receiving every year, right? Of course, the committee will be look very tired, right? The moment they are very tired, is going to be likely they're going to grade the essay bias, right? For example, right? Therefore, this is not going to be fair because there's no parameter under the side of the house. Therefore, under our side of the house, we think this is going to be more fairer because because we have like the parameter for students to know which one they need to improve. For example, if they have to take the exam the next year, for example, right? But even if the students is still going to cheat under our status, we think that's okay because there is consequences and there is trackable. Notice how in the UTBK test this year, people are revealing a lot, the list of students that is cheating, for example, through Twitter, right? And then they're going to see, oh, we're going to ban these people into entering our university because we know that these people is lack of integrity, right? This one example has already shown you how this is going to make even fairer system under our side of the house, right? Therefore, we think that it's going to be better under CJ. Case also mentioned about how it is going to qualify. Case talking about how they want to reach more people in East Indonesia. But in the current status quo, ladies and gentlemen, we already have quota. For example, we have 3T beasiswa, right? This is only exclusive to people in East Indonesia only, and they also have local university, which can be the option of them if in case they're not thriving in the university in the Java Island. We very proud to propose.
All right, I thank Felix for that speech. Yeah, to close CO's case and also close this Novice final as a whole, I call upon Jonathan as the opposition whip. Here.
Okay, let me set my timer first. Right. Start my speech. Starting my speech in 3. I'm starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. I'll give you a response to the OG. They said that this task will be subjective because they are judged by the people that and they could determine who is smart enough and creative enough to go into the next level education system. Some responses to this. First, they are right that the most vulnerable actor that they portray is that live in the area left behind here, the poor people and other vulnerable actors. But even though they didn't provide the clear mechanism of why those poor and vulnerable actors in the end of the day could edge out against those rich people that certainly have more access to education, but more elaboration on this point later. But they said that, there under our side of the house, there will be nepotism, corruption, and worst case scenario, corruption and etc. But again, judges notice that this is a worst case scenario and there is no explanation at all of why this harm is exclusive on our side of the house, because there could be cheating on and corruption that you could pay somebody to simply leak the test to you, and there is no explanation of likelihood why will this likely happen on our side of the house. But even if they do provide us with this, we can tackle this by some mechanization. First, we could randomize and make the interviewer and judges a secret. Second, we can closely supervise the money for the people that run the test. Third, we could make harsh sentence to the people that do nepotism and corruption under our side of the house. But then why is their biggest points of equality and quality of education will not fly? And this is the reasoning. First, notice the characteristic of selection on their side of the house. First is that people need a huge amount of money to go into top course like Intan and also BTN. But therefore, this will create a discrimination in the numbers of people who got into top university. But second is that notice that people need time to study. Notice that in the state school, people spend a lot of time into learning, although not all students have this extra time to spend because they are forced to work to provide the livelihood for their family, because they are forced to work to provide the funds needed to go into this test and etc. But third is that their response about increasing the quality by improving the Ministry of Education funding will not fly. Why? Because our response to this is that there is no analysis at all of how people get into university. That university, most of the time, not most of the time, but all university have quotas of acceptance, and they rank the person who go into university based on the top rankings. So even though they provide responses that they will increase the funding of Ministry of Education, the main factors is ranking of student. Therefore, the rich people will probably have a huge edge over the poorer people. What is the explanation to this? Is first, the Ministry of Education focus on public facility like library and etc. But the poor did not have access to this because they are working in their free time and can have a time to go into library. But second is that how hugely spread that resource of the Ministry of Education will be, the receiving actors will probably only take a small benefit. But the third, the rich have personal tutor and more time, and also their access to the help from the Ministry of Education is still accessible to them. So this is a huge proof that they will still have a big edge over the underprivileged. But why then education should prioritize these vulnerable actors? First, notice that for the underprivileged, this is their only chance to change their future compared to the middle class and the rich class that either first their family have their own business, second their parents have connection with the main people that can make them easier to be accepted in the working place, but third they have the time and capital to try again next year if they fail. The poor simply didn't have this, and that's why we want to bring education benefit to those that need it the most, which is the poor and underprivileged person. But responses to OO, first they said about portfolio and critical thinking. They said that it will make a better education and etc. But they did not provide us with a tangible proof of an exclusive and clear benefits on their side of the house of people having a critical thinking skills. Or why then those critical thinking skills should be the main parameter of people be accepted in university. But second, because the skill of critical thinking, we believe that because the skill of critical thinking shouldn't be limited to learning for the test, and that critical thinking, of course, can be learned from anywhere. The example is of course debating, but of course the second thing is that instead of memorizing, they want us to know and understanding the method. Some response to this, again no tangible proof of an exclusive and clear benefits on their side of the house, like why would understanding be better than memorizing at all? But second, but even if there is an explanation, there is no explanation of how this resume will probably put critical thinking into the matrix, right? But third, why then we should win over them? Because we didn't only explain to you how do we cater to the vulnerable actor, but we also win in the principle of argument. Why then that education should prioritize this vulnerable actor? But they said that student will be hopeless and there will be cheating risk. Again, they are playing on the worst case scenario. And of course, second, there will be of course the people that watch them doing those tests. And they said, responses to the CG, that CG stated that why the OG can provide inclusivity and why is this harm isn't that big on and isn't going to happen on our side of the house. But responses to this, even though there is still course, those people, even though there is still course for those SIs, those course would be accessible to the people. Why? Because the course maximally probably goes to the making of an SI with the KBB standard, and that's it, right? But that there is many metrics of how to judge an essay and an interview, and in there we will put perspective and also motivation letter. What is the impact of this? Is that underprivileged people who oftentimes work harder for them to change the future are given a possibility to be accepted, because to get into a principal argument and to judge it fairly, the ones who tried their hardest, their best, not only to study but to provide for their own education and to support their own family, deserve the biggest chance of changing their future to a better future. We believe that there is no course at all that teaches this to the privileged people. And And also, we believe that this could be a metric in those essays. But second response is that even though we realize that this will simply not happen instantly, at least under our side of the house, we can provide those underprivileged people with a bigger chance to access education. And by accessing education, they have a higher chance of working in a place that have bigger wages and far more bigger possibility to change their own future. But they said that, oh, there is divergent supervisor quality from different school and university. Some responses is that we could train and standardize those supervisors. Second, we could send those supervisors from the university. But they said that, oh, that local university, they have local university and scholarship. Some responses to this is that your quality of job rely heavily on where the university you go. That top university provide to you with the best job opportunities. But second, scholarship most of the time have requirement of your score. But thirdly, that there's not enough scholarship for the majority of poor people. That's why we believe we should want this debate. Thank you.
All right, I thank Jonathan for that speech. So yeah, okay, so basically that wraps the Novice Grand Final of NUDC 2022. Once again, representing all the judges, everyone, congratulations for making it this far. Yeah, a round of applause for everyone. Yeah, okay, so the judges need approximately 30 minutes